I'm Steph Cuthbert and welcome to Monday Morning Chat. Today I'm going to have a little talk about the books that I've been reading this week, introduce you to a non-fiction title for writers that you might not have heard of, and talk a little bit about the moment when I decided I wanted to be a writer. So the first book that I read this week was The Flywheel by Erin Gough. The Flywheel was part of my hashtag love OzYA TBR, which is on the blog, and I'll post a link so you can go and check out what other books I'm reading from there. As I mentioned, Erin Gough is Australian. I first heard of her when I went to Sydney Writers Festival, and I went to a panel called Realism in YA, I think, and she was talking about The Flywheel. I got it in my swag bag at TeenCon, and I was really sort of the first thing that struck me about this book was not just the cutesy cover, which is really quite adorable, but on the front cover it says, "A tender true story of girl meets girl, falling in love and finding your feet." I love that this is an LGBT title. I love that it's an Australian LGBT title. I think that there should be more of them, and it was fantastic to sort of find this book. I sort of wish that I had read something like this when I was 16 and sort of figuring out who I was. And look, it's a really nice story. It's about a girl whose dad sort of goes on an extended holiday, and she's left to look after his cafe. I was really rooting for Delilah, the entire book, you know, to sort of keep the cafe open, to get the girl, Rosa, who is the stuff of dreams, and sort of Charlie, I want to be his BFF. He's just awesome. So I really enjoyed this book. I read it in 2 days and I highly recommend it. The other book that I've been reading this week is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. Now, I haven't finished this. I'm about a third of the way through it. My general impressions are, look, I really like this book. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which automatically gets massive points for me because growing up, I was such a huge Beauty and the Beast fan. I was convinced that I was Belle, as most book nerd girls were. But this book, I really like it. And Sarah's writing has just gone from strength to strength. If you haven't read anything of hers, and you go and read Throne of Glass, and then you look at her writing, you know, and you read and you look at how her writing sort of improves and progresses, it's amazing. She really has come such a long way. I mean, Throne of Glass for me was a bit, and then, you know, the second one was like, oh, this is good. The third one blew my mind, and I can't wait for Queen of Shadows to come out soon. So this, it's really well written, and it's really interesting story, and as always she's got great characters, really great female characters, and also that really that male role that just plays off the female protagonist is really great, and there's chemistry and all of that, and it's awesome. But I can't help but feel like it's been overwritten. It reads a bit like it hasn't been edited down. I mean, it may just be me. I kind of like I kind of like tightness in books, and this doesn't feel tight. It feels like sometimes she's repeating herself, or I feel like sometimes she's not really giving the reader a chance to infer meaning, and she's sort of, you know, laying everything out on the table straight away for us, and so I I don't know. It could just be me, but I think the book could be half as long at some point. But then I felt like that a lot recently. I think there maybe it's the industry and there's a big push for longer books. I don't really know. I just look at it compared to something like Stardust by Neil Gaiman, which is just beautiful and breathtaking, but is a very, very short book by comparison. Yet I don't feel like it lost anything in being shorter. Maybe I'm just being picky. I don't know. So the non-fiction title that I wanted to talk about today is called Seize the Story, and it's written by Victoria Hanley. This is a really great resource if you're starting out writing. It's actually marketed as a handbook for teens who like to write, but forget about that. I mean, if you're starting out writing and you can't afford to do something like a writing course, which I would definitely recommend that you do if you're just starting out, but getting some really great books can also really, really help you. And this is a really good one. There's a couple of things that I really like about this book. Victoria shows you sort of samples of her own writing. So here you can see she's done a first draft and then she's crossed out most of it and she's kept about 3 words. So that sort of shows the process of how she writes, which I really, really like. The other thing that she does is that she talks about free writing and how to sort of free up your imagination to write and come up with ideas, which is important. The other thing I really love is that the second chapter is about characters. And this, for me, is huge because a lot of books kind of focus on plot, idea generation, plot, that sort of thing. Your characters are the most important part of your story. With a weak or weaker plot, your reader will still come along for the ride if they're invested in your characters. You can come up with the most brilliant idea, but if you don't have the right character for that story, then it's just going to fall flat. So if you're just starting out, I recommend you pick up a copy of this book. A question that I get asked quite frequently is, when was that moment that I decided that I wanted to be a writer? And for me, it was when I bought this book, Tomorrow When the War Began. I won a prize, a book prize, in Year 7 for English, and this is the book that I picked with it. If you haven't read this book, please go and read it. You can see that I have loved it to death. I have read it every year since I was 12 and I'm now 31. It is simply the most wonderfully written and interesting story that I have read, and it's because it's really about character. Okay, there's a bunch of teenagers and they go bush and they come out to discover that Australia has been invaded and there's a war on, and the series follows that story. But what the story is really about is a group of teenagers showing what they're made of. And for me, that makes it timeless. It doesn't matter that this book was written in 1993, I believe. It will always be relatable and accessible. The last thing that I wanted to show you was just some things from my personal collection. If you don't know, I'm a massive Amy Kaufman fan. And I actually met her recently at their Spec Fiction Fest at New South Wales Writers Centre. So I just want to show you some of the things that I have. I have these broken stars. I have a signed bookmark with Amy and Megan's signatures. I have a copy of these broken stars, which is signed, and it says, for Steph, good luck with your first book. Always keep writing, Amy. And I also have a copy of This Shattered World, which is the second book in the Starbound trilogy. And this one is signed too, and it says, "For Steph, clear skies," which is one of the things that is mentioned in the book. Their third book is coming out soon, not soon enough, and there's a space reserved on my shelf for a signed copy of that too. So thank you for hanging out. I know that this has been quite a long video, but please feel free to submit any sort of requests for things that you want to talk about, process, or any books that you'd like to hear me talk about. And please catch up with me on Facebook and Twitter and my blog and my YouTube channel. So thanks for hanging out, and I will see you next week. Bye. Stuff